All right. So now the power is in your hands, and we are about to launch the part where you get to choose a winner. So we have an Audience Choice Award where you get to choose a team to win $1,000. What I really need you to do right now is pull out your electronic device, your smartphone, your laptop. I think if you don't have a smartphone, pull it out, kind of wave it in the air, because I need to make sure everybody is ready to vote. There is going to be a easy to type in brief URL on the screen behind me. Erin is going to be timing the 2 minutes. So the goal is that you can't be tweeting out this URL and getting lots of votes quickly, we hope. So please be honest. So is everybody ready? You want us to do this again? If you would like to, you may do that. Look, Edward's totally ready. Everybody ready? Yeah. All right. Please display the URL. Or you can hand in a paper ballot. Did you get your vote in? Did you get your vote in? Oh, you voted together. Oh, that's awesome. You make an awesome team. All right. We're going to close the ballot. Ready? So Erin and I are going to leave the room and do some tabulation. But while we're gone, you have the pleasure of listening to one of my favorite human beings on the face of this earth. Today is International Women's Day, so woohoo! And I think Lisa's amazing locally, nationally, and internationally, so how appropriate is that? So Lisa is the co-founder and co-CEO of a company named WorkIt Health. It's a behavioral tool to reduce drinking and drug use. It's a very unique and amazing tool. Hopefully she'll share a little bit more about that. But actually, more importantly for me, Lisa has been a friend to Innovation in Action for 5 years. She's been a mentor. She's one of those panelists you saw in the video. And she's also taught some of the classes that we've done through Public Health 622. I consider her my friend, but also, to be completely honest with you, take your phone off Wi-Fi, get on your Twitter account, because she is about the most quotable human being. Every sentence out of her mouth, I'm like, what did you say? Did you get that? Oh my gosh, that was amazing. So I would love to introduce my friend, my colleague, a School of Information alum, Go Blue, Lisa McLaughlin.
Thanks so much, Anne. I love this program, and I've been a groupie to the Innovation in Action competition since the beginning and has great leadership, so I'm really happy to. I'm hoping there aren't any green letters on my face. Someone just actually tweeted a picture of me with green letters on my face, so I'm going to be careful to not be in a weird place. But it's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to see these teams. I had to change my presentation for tonight a ton because I thought that the presentations that people did this morning would not be as personal, as impactful, as deeply well thought out as they were. So what this presentation is going to be is my hindsight as someone who's a little bit further down the path than you are, but not much. So a lot of the challenges that you face if you decide to take these innovations and turn them into companies, hopefully I've bumped into a few of them along the way that'll be helpful to you. And I'm just going to share how we dealt with them and some tips and tricks. So the way that I structured what I'm going to share is I used the criteria that we use to judge companies today. And talked about all the ways we fell down in these areas to hopefully give you some insights on things not to do. So the topic of my presentation is how not to boil the ocean. I think it's incredibly difficult to start innovation. And I saw so many of you wrestling with the early decisions of what to focus on, what not to focus on. And boiling the ocean is very easy to do in the startup world. So when it comes to a problem statement and founding a company, make it personal. For every one of you today, there was some personal element on your team that I paid attention to that caused me to think you were more credible, to trust you, to believe that you could solve these big intractable problems you were taking on. So the burning problem, that's personal for me. That's what every great startup starts with, even if it's just something like Dropbox. That's like, it's a folder that syncs, and we all want that. That's a burning problem. For me, for WorkIt Health, we're a telehealth addiction care program that deals with opioids. I don't have to convince all of you that the opioid epidemic is a problem. We all thankfully know that. But when we co-founded WorkIt Health, it wasn't as well known of a problem. So the opioid epidemic here in the Detroit metro area, I've known about since 2002, 2003. But the general public didn't know about it until much later. The reason that I knew about this as a problem was because it was a deeply personal problem for me. I'm an individual who got sober in 2002 in Washtenaw County, and in the course of the time that I've been sober, have lost over 40 friends to the opioid epidemic over the course of my career in social work, in psychiatry, as an experiential wilderness therapist. While I was doing all those amazing things, living a sober life, my friends were dying. And so that's not an acceptable problem. And I think a key thing to do when you're thinking about innovation is, what is your hypothesis? And many of you shared those on your team. Your belief that organ donation can be done totally differently. Your belief that we should respond in the first 5 minutes of a medical incident and that we do have the tools. Our hypothesis at WorkIt was that patient-led design will rule the future. And that's the hypothesis that we've followed since the founding of the company. So when defining your user and your customer definition, a big theme that came up today was customer definition, so business plan. The exciting, the sexy part of your problem statement is always the mission-driven part, the part that's about the people, that's about the problem that you want to solve that you hate. The less exciting part is about the customer, who's often a different person or the person that you don't want to charge for this cool thing that you're trying to give them. Your customer is everything. So it took WorkIt Health a really long time to get to a customer. At seed stage as a venture-backed company, we spent a lot of time testing different markets, like you're doing, asking questions. Will providers pay for rehab redone? Will individuals pay for rehab redone? We landed on healthcare plans. And the reason we did was because we share the same skin in the game around solving the problem of the opioid epidemic, and we both have motivation to solve it. So WorkIt Health helps healthcare plans tackle addictions for their patients in the most engaging, effective, and cost-effective way possible. Why should plans care? I think this is a really important question. Why should the person you're trying to sell to care about what you're doing? If you can't answer that question, you're going to have a really hard time taking your idea to the next level. For us, we had to find the data that backs the reason they should care, and that reason is financial. So one single individual who needs medically assisted treatment and has an opioid use disorder that's covered by a plan, a commercial plan, costs that plan $78,000 a year. So what we can offer them is the ability to treat the same patient for an 18th of the cost, and they're already paying that money today. The cost of doing nothing is $78,000. So they can ask themselves, should we work with WorkIt and address this issue more cost effectively, or should we pay $78,000 for every member on our plan who has an opioid use disorder? So back to this issue of not boiling the ocean. You right now and your actual future business are so far apart that I can't even explain the distance to you. So I'm trying to give you a couple analogies here to think about it. People, when we started a startup, said to us, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not a marathon, it's worse than a marathon. So when my mother told me that giving birth to a child was gonna be like a marathon, because I had done the Detroit Free Press Marathon, and she was there when I had my first child, and I said to her, "Mother, you lied. This is so much worse than a marathon. This is not a marathon." The same is true of startups and of founding and seeding innovation. It is endless, it goes on and on and on, and at each level you have these incredible triumphs and these insurmountable challenges that you face at every stage. So the one thing that can keep you sane is staying simple. Great products are gettable. The farther you go in your process of founding the innovation that you've started, the less gettable it's going to become. You're going to get so much feedback from the world around you. Experts are going to tell you, maybe your market's over here, maybe this partner's going to help. If you get too far from that gettable hypothesis that you had in the beginning, you're going to lose your ability to own a space and to be a gettable product. And being a gettable product in an information overload age is everything. So defining your product, this is a huge challenge, and I see all of you evolving even in your presentations with how you describe it, with what you emphasize. For WorkIt Health, we had to follow a lot of scientific evidence to get to the product that we have today. And the product that we have today, I will tell you that in 2015, when I founded the company, I believed was an evil product. I didn't believe in medically assisted treatment. I got sober in AA. And what I've come to learn, there's actually notes that I have from a talk that I saw in 2015 of a doctor at Spectrum Health saying medically assisted treatment will end opioid use disorder. And I have this long page of notes saying what a fool he was. What I've come to learn from founding WorkIt Health is that medication-assisted treatment is a gold standard treatment for opioid use disorder. And a lot of the reasons why many of my friends are dead is because the bar for sobriety was just too high with cold jump in the wagon detox that I did in 2002. So we created a product that's a completely telehealth focused addiction care platform that allows individuals to do an online intake, then do a drug test, a much more human-centered drug test than the ones that I did in rehab, where someone followed me into a bathroom and watched me pee. So we had to redesign sort of every element of rehab to get to a more just, more effective type of rehab that's actually going to get people sober. So what do we have today? Product definition evolves as you're building a company. And so when we started my company, it was all about creating something simple, some little thing that could help someone, a meeting in between AA meetings. The product we have today is a wraparound intensive outpatient and a telepsychiatry platform. The difference between those two product visions is enormous. So when I started the company, I was doing an app, a widget, something simple, a consumer product. Now I run a hospital in the sky. Those are two very different companies. So the people that you have as a team for one company as you're building and growing in innovation and the product it becomes might be so different. You might need a whole different team, a whole different set of advisors as you grow. So in our product, you choose 3 behaviors to focus on as you work on your addiction. And this is helpful to understand because I think for individuals as they're creating a product, it's so difficult to even narrow in on what your product should focus on. And I'm just sharing a little bit about how we got to the product that we landed on today. So follow your power users, the people that were so powerful today, and I really liked Ebony's feedback around how many interviews did you do? How many interviews did you do? It is so hard when you're seeding innovation not to just listen to your small group in a room and have a lot of groupthink. It is so hard to get out of the building. We had to do this with our users, and we discovered that people that used our product wanted privacy and confidentiality, and we were people who were like living out loud, sober, shouting from the rooftops. That's not who our clients are. The people who we worked with were living in rural communities and were queer, and the only rehab services available to them were religiously based or connected to systems that they didn't believe in. And we had to listen to those users and create amenities in our rehab that fit that experience, even though it was so different from our own rehab experience. And that was really difficult to do. So I like this idea, you know nothing, Jon Snow. I think you should all have this picture on your desktop if you're building any kind of startup. You know nothing about your startup, and you'll continue to know nothing. I watched pitches that I did a year ago, and I'm like, you fool, you had no idea. But that's what's so exciting. I mean, what's so exciting about innovation is that you're gonna learn so much, and you probably learned so much being in this competition. So these are some things that I thought I believed that I don't, we're just totally wrong. Our friends in AA will love this product. Totally wrong. My friends in AA now think I'm evil for running a medically assisted treatment program. My belief that medically assisted treatment was evil myself. Now I'm a huge promoter. I sell medically assisted treatment online. The idea that consumers want control of their healthcare and they will pay for it. I was really wrong about that too. People trust their plans. People trust that if their healthcare plan is going to cover something, that means it's a medically relevant service. So metaphors that people believe are really relevant even when you're doing disruption. And I also believe that if you're not uncomfortable, you are doing it wrong. If you're not getting out of the building and asking people about your product, you are not building the future. And that's an extreme statement, but you're talking to someone who has a magnet on the side of my car about my startup. I didn't start there. I was super shy. I didn't tell people about WorkIt. I didn't tell people I was in recovery. But wave after wave of putting yourself out there like you're doing today will get you to a place of such freedom that you will put a magnet on the side of your car and promote your own business. Then you will get answers, you'll get feedback, and you'll get to a solution that works. Team. It was so fun to watch you guys up here with your teams, trying to figure out who's the extrovert, who's gonna talk the whole time, who's got something to say. You know, I was so excited and delighted to hear people answer questions that hadn't talked the whole time and be like, whoa, where did that person come from and all their insight. It's incredible to see that process evolve. For me, as someone who has a team of 12 now and of 75 contractors, team is such a challenge in building innovation. There is so much growth that you go through in different cycles of building a company, a startup. These are some lessons that have been relevant for me. Walking your talk. If you are doing a mental health service, take good care of your own mental health. Startups are so stressful. You work 80 hours a week. You're building something that doesn't exist. There have been points in WorkIt's history where people who were very early in their sobriety have had to quit working for WorkIt because it was threatening to their sobriety. That was the last thing I wanted when founding this company, but it's a reality of doing a business in a really hard, difficult topic. Defining what are actions with impact for your team is key. You are doing so many things every day to push your idea. I would suggest this little rubric. If it's not tied to revenue, burn, what you're burning, what you're raising, it's not an action with impact. If you've got an idea, if you're doing something but you can't tie it back to something that's going to make your little seedling grow, it's off scope and you're distracting yourself. And believe me, every team wants to focus on the fun stuff. Everyone wants to think about branding or something fun and not the really hard bottom line things that make a great business. Developing your own personal board as an individual member of a team is key. You have this huge network of mentors available to you in the Michigan community, but you need a separate board for yourself, just like you need one for your organization. As you're learning and growing how to have your particular role, if it's technology, if it's finance, if it's ops, you need a sort of band of experts around you that are going to help you shape the identity you're trying to create on your team. It's also incredibly important to hire for startup EQ. I'm someone who hired friends and family in the early stages of my company, and that is such a difficult thing. It is very difficult to tell your sibling or your best friend that they aren't a good fit for your team as you move from 15 to 80 people. So think hard about who you hire and the orientation that it takes to participate in innovation at this level. People who love innovation and love working on innovation have a certain DNA. They love the risk. I love this space. It makes me so happy. A lot of people are miserable doing this kind of work. So think hard about who you bring into your circle. I also think it's really, really important to think about social innovation. Many of you had nonprofit business models today. I run a social enterprise that's a formal B Corp. I believe in social enterprises. I'm someone who ran nonprofit technology initiatives for 7 years in the Bay Area. I think nonprofits are great. I think controlling your own destiny as a source of innovation is greater, is better, and something you should fight for. And I also believe in the power of social enterprises to shape economic opportunity. For me, a lot of my friends who died from the opioid crisis died because they were depressed here in Michigan about the lack of economic opportunity that they had coming out of their drug addictions and into the workforce. I also believe in this notion of go big and go home. So thinking about place-based innovation as you're developing your initiatives, it was fun to see the local focus some of them had. We're in a huge world. It is incredibly important to understand the place that you're in and the role that makes in shaping innovation. Go big and go home is actually an Endeavor theme, and I think it's an incredible one. It's one that we take to heart very seriously at WorkIt Health. Also, building the future and investing in the future is very important. If you're building your business and you discover that you're reinventing some weird aspect of a health system that you hated when you started the company, just stop. You're no longer creating the future. For us, we focused on telemedicine because that's where the world is going. Other competitors that we have in the market are just putting up brick and mortar opioid clinics and nail salons all over the country because that's how they got to market fastest. But the question is, are they building the future? Or are they rebuilding the past? Are they rebuilding this kind of McDonald's Health Service Anonymous weird thing that we all started innovating because of? That's a question you have to think hard about as you're building your products. And formalizing your values as a team. Every year we have a summit where we create a culture workbook and we decide, who are we? Who aren't we? Yes, no. Put these big buttons on the floor, and then people pick values. The team you have this year is not going to be the team you have next year, but it's really important to share the story of who you are as you're building these incredible organizations that I was so excited to get to see today. Please ask for help. Building the future is really, really hard, and it takes a village. And there are so many founders out there that will support you on your path. There isn't a founder that I don't know in the space that won't take a call from a young founder, writing them with the right kind of tone in the email saying, I really need help. I can call up Doug Song from Dua Security anytime. He's a busy guy. He runs a very, very successful company. He answers my calls because I'm a local founder and he cares. Like, that's something that's available to you, especially as Michigan alums. We have an incredible network of founders in this community and around the world. So please ask for help, ask me for help, ask each other for help, and keep building amazing, amazing futures. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Lisa, so much for scaring the shit out of everyone. You know, I've watched Lisa and her team in various pitches that sometimes my own company was involved in, and I was always so impressed with the guts that they had, and just it's an amazing group to watch. So what you have gone through, how you have gone through the hard scrabble of a startup and continued to grow, continued to succeed. The timing seems to be right there now, so it's just wonderful to watch you guys do so well. And I loved how you talked about the ecosystem at the very end. It's just so important to know that we have an amazing ecosystem. Before I introduce these guys and the woman with the checks, I want to just say one thing, and I actually want to go back to a philosopher named Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche wrote this book called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Don't read it. It's ridiculously dense. But in the very beginning is this amazing metaphor that Nietzsche talks about. And he starts with a camel. And the camel says, load everything on my back, put everything on my shoulders, all the joys and the sorrows and the pains of the world, everything. In other words, educate me completely. He metamorphosizes, or she metamorphosizes into a lion. The lion goes out into the wilderness. The lion finds a dragon. And on every scale of the dragon, it says, thou shalt. In other words, everybody's telling you what's right. You shall do this, you shall do that. You should do it this way, you should do it that way. We know that won't work, that won't work. We know how to do it. The lion slays the dragon. And the final metamorphosis is the lion then metamorphosizes into a child. Totally innocent and completely fresh. I started thinking about that when I heard Lisa talk, because I think she was a camel and she moved into this lion and she slayed every single group that said, you can't do this, you should do it this way. And now she's a child, and that's what she's talking about. She's building WorkIt from scratch in a beautiful, elegant way that is unique, that's her own purpose. And that's why they're succeeding. And that's what's so amazing. And I really think that all of the teams that I've been watching are camels right now. They're saying, teach me, build me up, put everything on my shoulders so that I can become a lion. Not that all of you will end up becoming companies. You don't need to here. So many people who come out of this end up working in many, many other settings, but they really have an understanding of what it takes to move from 0 to 1 and the guts to innovate. And so I am just so super impressed. I have to say this, and it's no slight on any previous year, but these are the best presentations I've heard in the last 5 years. These are really awesome presentations. The quality of just every part of it just really moved me. Every single program, every single team was great. Thank you for doing this and for all. I'm just so impressed with all of you. Great job. And now I want to, thank you. Now I really want to thank the mover and shaker behind all of this, which is Anne Verhey-Henke. This is Anne's program. She built this from scratch. She was the camel. And she kind of said, you know, I'm going to slay the dragon of how this should be done. She became a child, and now she really has a program with tremendous purpose, tremendous integrity, and uniqueness. And in fact, groups from around the country are asking Anne, how do I do this in my organization? Anne also has an unbelievable team. And so with that team, who has just done so much, it just could not have been done without you. Wonderful job, the whole team. I'm very proud to be up here and introduce these folks because it's just such a pleasure working with them. It's a great pleasure working with Sharon as well. And I think now it's time probably, finally, I'll shut up and we can actually hand out the real awards, which is great. Okay, so we have, this is the Audience Choice Award. And it goes to La La Land. Oh no, it's a tie.
We've got Busy Box.
And we have Heart. Great job, guys. Wow. That is so cool. Great job.
They'll grab the check and then just step to the side, but they can
Okay.
you won't take
If you guys can come up, you can take the check, and then if you can move over there, then we're going to have a photo session, right? After? Right, that's what I thought. Great. Great job, guys. Great, thanks.
third place.
All right, and this is third place. Sharon, do you want to do the honors here?
All right, so third place is Heart.
All right, get back up here. Way to go, Hart. Way to go, Hart. And we have second place.
This is yours.
All right. Oh my goodness. First Five Med. Well done, First Five Med. That was a great job. Nice job. Great job. Super. Way to go. Real pleasure. Yeah. Good job. Thank you. Yeah. Great job. Wonderful.
Wow, this is
This is it.
this is nerve-wracking.
What we've been waiting for. Sharon's going to announce this.
Oh, I am.
Yes, you are.
Busy Box.
Wow. Fabulous. Great job. Thank you, everyone, for being here all this time. I've seen parents, I've seen people from the community, I've seen people who are venture capitalists, we've seen people who are in this entrepreneurial ecosystem, and most importantly, we've seen students here. Thank you all for being here. There is some great food outside, and congratulate again these amazing teams and all of the teams who participated in this arduous exercise and ended up doing great work.
Thank you.